You are listening to the Hodges Huddle, where we discuss all things in the wide world of sports. Here's your LSU sports team.
Welcome into the Hodges Huddle. I'm your host, Michael Poggi, alongside my wonderful coworkers. Man, we got Jayden Smith. We got William Gilreath.
It's Clark Kent today, man.
Oh,
it's
my
Clark
fault.
Kent.
Yeah, man, my fault. Hey, look, if you couldn't tell already, we got a little Halloween episode for y'all, trying to make stuff, a little bit fun. It is Halloween week.
Yeah.
So I guess what is you, man? You got the Superman costume on.
Clark Kent, Superman, whatever you want to call it. Feeling very super on this Monday. We'll dive into the reasons why. And yeah, man, I'm gonna throw it to the guy right here.
Man, I'm just like Kirk Herbstreit or Reese Davis or one of those guys. Or you could, I might be a lawyer. It's up for audience interpretation today.
I like that.
I got like the bear costume on, something like that.
Okay, let's use teddy bear. Right
yeah,
there.
I guess you could say. Well, we have a lot to talk about, man. This is going to be a fun one, you could say.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be a fun one. We have a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss. A lot of stuff has gone on in the LSU football world in the last 48 hours, I could say.
Yeah.
So let's jump right in, man. Obviously, LSU lost this past weekend to Texas A&M, number 3 Texas A&M, 49-25, in an embarrassing outing from the Tigers. With that, of course, on Sunday night, it was announced that LSU will be parting ways with head coach Brian Kelly, as well as offensive coordinator Joe Sloan. And then Frank Wilson was also announced the interim head coach for the remainder of the season, as well as tight ends coach Alex Atkins taking in over the role for offensive coordinator. So a lot of stuff to dive into, a lot of stuff to discuss. So first things first, let me just ask you about your initial thoughts on these moves, on the game, as well as, the firing of both Joe Sloan and Brian Kelly.
Man,
Let's get your initial words, man.
it's been a crazy 72 hours for LSU football, this fan base, this program, this culture, the city of Baton Rouge, the state of Louisiana, and it's probably the craziest stretch of time that I can recall in recent memory, at least covering this team. Good environment Saturday night for 30 minutes it was. And then you get blasted in the second half. As far as the Brian Kelly news, I got to be honest, I'm pretty surprised. I didn't think they'd actually, go through with it like this. I really didn't.
I didn't think they were going to do it either, man.
Yeah.
It was crazy how fast the situation unfolded, too.
Yeah.
Because, look, last week after they lost to Vanderbilt, Brian Kelly's job was not in immediate danger. There were people who, were upset about the loss, but it was never he has to win next week or he's fired. And
especially against the number 3 team in the country.
Right. But it's more so how they lost. You saw your program get embarrassed, and you saw a bitter rival of yours take over your stadium and embarrass you and embarrass your brand. And if there's one thing that this LSU football fan base or this LSU fan base in general doesn't like, it's when you mess with their brand and when you mess with their pride. And it was shocking to me. I think it was deserved. I think it was the right move, but I just didn't expect it to unfold as fast as it did.
Yeah, look, man, I think that game goes on. LSU loses by 1 score, touchdown late in the fourth, or a late field goal, or even 10 points.
Right.
We aren't having this discussion right now. And you mentioned bitter rival. I think that's also part of it. I think the fact that, in my opinion, I don't think Texas A&M is that much of a bitter rival to LSU. And hold on. I just think that the fact, look, I've been following LSU for a long time. I've been watching LSU sports for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I was on the field. I was working. I was doing the camera. And I'll tell you right now, I have never in my life seen the way the entire stadium flooded out.
Yeah.
No, not you couldn't see any purple and gold. And it gets to the fourth quarter, and you hear that song that they just would not stop singing, arm in arms, going like this.
Yeah.
And here's the crazy part. They're blaring this, right? They're all singing. You can hear everybody in the stadium almost singing this song or whatever it is. And as that's happening, Call 'Em Baton Rouge comes on. And you can hear them more than you can hear Call 'Em Baton Rouge in the fourth quarter in Tiger Stadium in a top 20 game. Now that is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. That is not what this place is about. That is not what Death Valley is. And so in that scenario, it was almost like, okay, something needs to change. Because this is the second year in a row something like this has happened. And now it's Texas A&M doing it, not Alabama, not Alabama.
Right.
Texas A&M. And that's where, in my opinion, that's where I draw the line.
Your little brother.
Almost, yeah. Almost,
I mean,
like you're talking about a team who hasn't come in and beaten you since the '80s in this stadium.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about. And they completely ran you out of the gym. You were up by a score going into halftime, and they ran you out.
You got outscored 35-7 in the second half, and your touchdown came with 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
Like,
With a backup quarterback.
It was pathetic.
It's just like, I mean, it's something that needs, like, it's.
I don't even have the words, man. Like, Poggi and I were working the game, and you talk about seeing the people flood out. I was watching it from the press box, so I'm like, I have like a, different view to it. And I forgot what touchdown it was, but I think it was when they went up 42-18 in the third quarter. And I kid you not, man, like people were scattering like roaches, bro. Like literally like crowds of people at the same, just leaving the game. Like it was one of the most gut-wrenching feelings ever as a fan and as a reporter that's been covering this team for 3 years. Like at post-game, the press conference, I've never been in Tiger Stadium and felt an aura like that. Like it quite literally, like it felt like someone had just died.
Yeah, to go back, like they were doing they like that song stuff or whatever. I don't even know what to call it. Their alma mater or
Their
whatever.
war hymn.
Their
whatever.
war hymn. They like I don't even know what to call it.
Yeah.
They're doing that, and then the alma mater comes on after the game. And, the players stay out, whatever. Alma mater comes on. And there's a video on the KLSU Sports Instagram. But you can literally hear the war hymn over the alma mater. And I took the video, and I'm standing right next to the band for LSU playing the alma mater. Like, that's what I'm talking about, man. Like, that is – it like, in that fourth quarter, in that third quarter, it felt like you were – in College Station. You weren't in Baton Rouge. And that's something that, like, that to me was like, okay, something needs to change, and something needs to change right now.
A&M fans were literally, they had an entire section in your student section.
Yeah, man.
The game.
Yeah.
They were the ones, they joined in on the Tigers chant on the last touchdown. Like, all right, so I wasn't working the game. I was there in the student section. And I was surrounded by a sea of Aggies. And I have never in my life felt so I was embarrassed.
It was an embarrassing game, man.
You're right. Something needed to change.
Yeah.
And it feels like, I texted my mom this morning, the sun has rose from the eastern sky and there's hope again in Death Valley.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what it feels like today. Like, you woke up and it's like, okay, we're in a spot where hopefully that never happens again. Because that's the third time it had happened in the Brian Kelly era. Happened with Alabama, happened with A&M, happened with Tennessee in his first year.
Even the Bama game last year, it didn't feel that bad.
Well, look,
like I was,
it wasn't. That bad.
I was making my way to the press conference room, and you go to that Tigers chant. Like, I heard the noise behind me in the student section, but I didn't really like look too hard. So I'm thinking like, oh man, like we still got some fans here, like respect. Like they stayed until the end. And I think I turned around and I see just a sea of white and maroon. Like A&M kids looking like the happiest people on earth. Like it is a terrible feeling.
Yeah, man.
And to just watch it unfold the way it did, it to watch the victory lap they took, and then you see all the TikTok edits that come after that. Death Valley's supposed to be this scary place, and like that just can't happen. And
They made you a joke.
yeah, and I understand it because like it just got to a point I was like, man, just make it stop, bro.
Well,
Like,
and that's where it's like, and like in the college football world, there's certain things that have more respect than others. And one of those things is you don't walk into Baton Rouge on a Saturday night and win by 30 points, 25 points. You don't do that.
Mm-mm.
You don't do that, let alone Texas A&M. And that's where it's something that needed to be talked about, needed to be discussed, and LSU athletic director Scott
and it
Woodward
literally,
got
it never
figured out.
rains in Death Valley. It was raining that entire day, and it stopped like just a couple of hours before
that
kickoff. We go the whole game without any rain.
I-
Me and Poggi was still sitting up in the press box after the game, writing the gamer, editing, and whatnot. And I kid you not, it starts pouring down, raining. Like you can't make this up. Like in a way, I'm glad it happened because it needed to happen in order for changes to be made.
did.
So it's a canon event.
It
It is what it is.
did need to happen. If LSU lost this game any other way, like I
still
said,
here.
we would not be having this conversation. But LSU athletic director Scott Woodward has now officially been a part of, in a sense, the two biggest buyouts in college football history. His first was with buying out Jimbo Fisher. Obviously, he wasn't the athletic director that extended Jimbo, and he wasn't a part of doing the contract that bought him out. But he was the person who signed him to that big contract to begin with. And then now Brian Kelly, which is originally listed at $54 million, but is still being settled. I saw something that might bring it down to $20 million or $30 million or something like that. But at the time of making this episode, there are no finalized results.
Yeah.
What point, is it time for conversations to be had about Mr. Scott Woodward? And like, obviously, he has hit the, head on the nail when it comes to getting certain coaches, whether that's Mulkey, whether that's Jay Johnson. So what are your kind of thoughts on Scott Woodward?
Well, I think it's important, like you said, like LSU athletics is in a pretty good state. They have been under Scott Woodward. I mean, he didn't hire Ogeron, but his first year as the AD was that 2019 season. So under his reign, they've won a football national championship, they've won a women's basketball national championship, 2 baseball championships, and a gymnastics championship. So that's good in itself.
Yeah.
But like you said, Scott Woodward is also responsible for the 2 worst contracts in college football history, in a sense. And now you sit here and the board of supervisors are under external pressure too from the governor and a ton of people, and that's a whole nother story. I think it's going to be really interesting on who makes this next hire. I don't think Scott Woodward will be gone because Scott Woodward has put LSU athletics in a good state.
Yeah.
They've won championships. They've fundraised well. They have, they have competed. And you look back on the Brian Kelly hire, and on paper, it made sense. Like, on paper, it made sense.
Right.
And on paper, if you look at LSU firing Brian Kelly right now, on paper, it doesn't make 100% sense. But life and football, they're not played out on paper. And that's why he needed to go. I think Scott Woodward will be the athletic director at LSU when the next football coach is announced. I'm just not sure how much. I'm not sure if it's going to be his decision. I think one guy that's going to have a major say in it is Austin Thomas, the general manager. I think he will have a major say, and I think the Board of Supervisors will have a major say. And I think Scott Woodward's going to present them with some candidates. And then ultimately, I think, financially, they're going to have to find a way to get it done because now they're under financial pressure.
Yeah.
Because like you mentioned, right now they're going to pay Brian Kelly $800,000 a month until they settle this buyout. And by the way, Brian Kelly is under no responsibility to take anything less than he's owed. LSU signed him to a contract that says he's owed, right now $54 million to not coach this football team. He's entitled to that $54 million as of today. Now, if stuff comes out, that's different.
Yeah.
So, Brian Kelly isn't, while we might not like it, he's not a bad person for wanting his money.
Yeah.
No, yeah, 100%. I mean, that's part of the job.
Exactly. But now you're in the situation where you got to find $54 million for BK. What happens to some of the guys on that staff? That's another $10 million. Now you're going to have to hire a new coach, pay whatever that coach's buyout's going to be, then hire that coach. That's another $10 million. Then you need another $10 to $15 million for that coach's staff. And by the way, we haven't even got into the $15 million that they'll need to construct that coach's roster.
Yeah.
LSU Athletics is about to spend $100 million on renovating. I don't know if renovating is the right word, but reshaping this football program.
Yeah.
So if Scott,
because I will say this isn't a rebuild.
No.
Whatever coach comes in here, this isn't a rebuild.
It's a reload.
This is the definition of a reload.
Yes.
I think with Scott Woodward, I think the situation's all kind of funny. I don't think he needs to be fired. Mm-hmm. I don't at all. I don't think he needs to be let go. He is the best college baseball coach in who knows how long this. And when it's all said and done, might be the best college baseball coach of all time. So that alone in itself is an amazing hire. And then you have Kim Mulkey, which is, one of, if not the best women's basketball coach of all time in college. So that's where you kind of have to look around and be like, okay, there's championships still on the board. But when it comes to football, something needs to be kind of changed a little bit. Because I think the way his hiring I like how you mentioned that you don't think he'll be in charge of the hiring process. Because, I think the Brian Kelly situation was a couple pieces away from honestly working. I think Brian Kelly was about this close from figuring it all out. He was able to construct a good amount of pieces to surround his team. He was able to get a defense that he liked. He was able to get the guys that he wanted on the field. I just don't necessarily think he had the right staff surrounded by him. I think the Bryce Underwood stuff completely changed how this season was going to go. Because, I think if LSU was able to sign Bryce Underwood, and Nussmeier probably wasn't going to come back into this season, and I don't think Nussmeier is the problem. I think that if that were to have happened, you would have seen a completely different, approach into this season. And I think that there were just stuff that, he wasn't able to pick up the ball and keep it rolling. But we talked about it last week with him just not being the fit personality-wise for this football club.
Yeah, I think you just have to look at it outside of just a football perspective. If you only watch football, then, you'd probably think, we get him out of here, what? But like you say, you can't just throw away or disregard the hires of Kim Mulkey and Jay Johnson And even with that, like, all of the viewership that, football has brought to this university, right? All of the dollars that it is poured into this university because of their viewership and, image and likeness and things like that. But I think it'll be a situation where, okay, you swing and miss on the Jimbo Fisher hire. You clearly swing and miss on the Brian Kelly hire. So it may be a 3 strikes and you're out kind of deal. Like, look, we may let you have your input on this next one, but hey, Mr. Woodward, this is it, man. Like, you can't keep robbing this. Like, but I do think the most sensible approach to that would be what Will said. Is like, okay, you'll be the athletic director, but it won't be Scott Woodward made the decision.
Well, and that's why schools are bringing in general managers and all that sort of things.
So I think, this could have implications on how programs across the country, change their decision-making process, their hiring process. I mean, who knows? Because it's pretty risky having one guy have that much say-so to begin with. And I think it is critical more than ever to get a hold of that now with this upcoming hire.
And it's also worth pointing out, like, Scott Woodward was a driving factor in the rehiring of Austin Thomas. Like, that was a Scott Woodward decision.
Mm-hmm.
That was not a Brian Kelly decision. That was a Scott Woodward decision.
Right.
So in that can work in 2 ways. That can be a Scott Woodward trusts Austin Thomas to lead this search.
Yeah.
Or it's a Scott Woodward can say, I hired you, like, help, like, here's my influence.
Yeah.
And so it's a double-edged sword. And it is crucial for LSU to nail this hire because your program is not in shambles. It's not. You just got thrown in a ditch.
You're just missing a captain to drive the ship. That's all you're really missing. And I genuinely think that this team itself is like 2 pieces away from being a 1-loss team. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like like this team is very, very close to being what everybody was expecting them to be. But let's move on. We got some more stuff to talk about before we kind of talk about who we think is, the best fit to lead this football team. But of course, LSU had an 18-14 lead going into halftime. And obviously, like we said, a must-win game. You're a 2-loss team in this 12-team playoff. You cannot lose another one, especially at home, and especially the way you did. And just to be shut down in every aspect of the game, like running the ball, special teams, all over the place, man. It was a cluster. So what happened in that second half from y'all's point of view, and what kind of what went wrong, man?
Well, everything went wrong.
Yeah. What went right?
First of all, you and BK spoke about this in the presser. You don't get the stop to open the half. You let A&M go down and score. So instead of you getting the ball back with a chance to go up 2 possessions, you're now trailing by a possession, and you have to score. So, boom, you get the ball back, you don't score, and you give up a punt return touchdown like that. I knew it was over right there. I was like, there's no way.
I'm pretty sure I texted the KLSU Sports group chat and said, ball, period.
Yeah.
Game, period.
Game. And, not even just because of the score, but just game-breaking plays like that. Like, it's so hard to overcome mentally. And on top of that, your offense, the somewhat consistent flow that it did have in the first half, it just did not have in the second half. And, we also, couldn't stop the run.
And I think the problem with that was, with the offense, was like, man, you had so many opportunities in that first half with 2 interceptions and then the blocked punt with that forced the safety. You had all these opportunities to go and get more than 3 points. And one of the main things that we have talked about all year long, and especially in the last few weeks, is when you have the opportunity to go down into that side of the field and score, it better not be just 3 points because you are in an opportunity where, like, you're in a situation where if you go and look, I genuinely think that if they would have scored that touchdown at the end of the first half instead of having to take 3, it would have been a very, very different situation going into that locker room, coming out of that locker room. I think that the atmosphere would have been a little bit different. I think even having that 4-point lead, it should have been, like a lot more confidence coming back onto that field. But you could kind of see the way A&M was moving the ball in that first half. I mean, before throwing the 2 interceptions, the one to Halsey, like they were right in the red zone.
Yep.
They marched all the way down the field to score that ball and then just made a bad read, and you have the best safety in the country. So I think that it was coming. I think if you really look back and you go and watch the game, you can kind of see it all slowly coming together for Texas A&M.
In a way, but like that reminds me of the Bama game here, 2022. Bama's first drive of the game. I don't know if y'all remember, but they literally like marched down the field, and it looked like it was gonna be another game where we just couldn't hang with Bama. And boom, what happens? Joe Fouché gets that interception, totally changes the outlook of that game and the way it unfolded. So I kind of.
But they were able to go down and score after that interception. They were able to go down and get 7, were they not? I think they
did.
And that's what I'm saying is the difference between that team, like those types of teams, and this one. And it's kind of happened all season. Like whether that was in Ole Miss or whether it was in Clemson or whether it was in Vanderbilt, you were able to force the other team to make mistakes, and you just weren't able to capitalize to your full potential. And I think that is what hurt this team all season long. And at some point, like, it's just you're not going to be able to come back from it.
And, like, even in that Florida game, they forced 5 turnovers and they scored 13 points on offense. And when that was brought up, the reaction was, well, you're spoiled. You're spoiled.
Don't even get me started on
and
that, man.
I know we're talking about the game specifically here, but, like, I just want to point out, like, Brian Kelly was trying to convince an LSU fan base that has a standard that was set in 1999 when Nick Saban was hired.
Mm-hmm.
That's when this standard was set, that the result on the field is important, but how you get it done is just as important. Yeah. And that won you 3 national championships and got you to play for a 4th. And Brian Kelly tried to convince you in week 3 that you're spoiled for having that mindset.
And that's why, like, when that happened, like, I couldn't believe people were, like, siding with BK on that. Because I saw I knew what he was doing. Like, you just don't want your feet to be held to the fire. Like, no, the fact of the matter is your offense did not perform tonight. And for the aspirations that this team had at that point in the season, that can't happen.
And now look what's happened. And, like, we talked about this on the Sunday show last night. Like, it was excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse.
Yep.
And that offense and Garrett Nussmeier are a byproduct of the Brian Kelly experience.
Yeah.
They're looking for the excuse. They're not looking to hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what Frank Wilson and Alex Atkins and Tim Rattay and Cortez Hankton, I'm excited to see what they draw up. They got 2 weeks. I'm not saying LSU's going to go into Bryant-Denny Stadium and put up 35, but I think this is going to be an offense that's going to fight. I think they're going to
I am very intrigued to see what happens the rest of the season.
I am too.
And I'm kind of like,
you get a different perspective now. I can cut it on now and not say, "Oh my gosh, what is the offense going to do to make me mad today?"
There's also no
say
pressure
to make me mad this time. Yeah, there's no pressure.
Like,
so now I can look at it.
Go
Okay, let me see
football.
what you're working with. Like, let me see what y'all got, man. Like,
look, I mean,
let's see how you finish this season, right? You're what, 5-3 at this point?
2-3 in conference play.
Look, you can either fold and give up now, or you can finish the season strong and you can give this fan base a lot to look forward to.
And that's what Frank Wilson said to the players yesterday.
And don't let me get ahead of myself, but don't let Frank Wilson
No.
walk into Brian. Don't let Frank Wilson walk into Brian
No,
Denny.
chill.
Don't let him do it.
If there's one game Frank Wilson would want his LSU interim head coaching debut to be against, it's on the road in Bryant-Denny Stadium against that Alabama team. Frank Wilson is a guy that understands this program. He's going to have those guys fighting.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm honestly, I can't wait because I'm excited to just like see what happens with this next week. Obviously, Frank Wilson's going to talk to the media tomorrow, or for the people watching this today. So Tuesday he will talk to the media, so we will be able to kind of see what this game plan is moving forward. But as we kind of talking about, I said don't let Frank Wilson go into there and win the football game, because then you really got to start talking about coaching carousels. So who do y'all think, right? Who do y'all think LSU should go after in the coaching carousel, and who is most likely, most probable for LSU to go out and get in this coaching carousel?
I would love to have like Lane Kiffin, just a heavily offensive-minded coach who I know for sure would at least somewhat understand what this program wants and expects out of its football team. I think he's already an SEC coach, so he understands, it just means more in the SEC and things like that. Great coach. Witt's already getting ready to marry his daughter and whatnot. So look, just come on down. You're already halfway in the door anyway, man. You already here basically. But I don't know how realistic that is. I don't know that he'll even want to leave Ole Miss. I saw something today. He said he'll never make a decision based on how much money is thrown at him and things like that. So that's who I want. And I think it can be pulled off, but there are a lot of strings in place that would, have to be pulled to make that happen.
Well, and on that, there are 12 FBS openings as of today.
There's a lot. 12.
Yeah.
The minute the LSU job became open, that became the top job.
You think that was on his radar?
You think it's the top job?
I do. Absolutely, I do.
I think it's 1A, 1B.
I think Florida or Penn State.
Florida.
I think LSU is a better job than Florida right now. And we could talk about that later.
Yeah.
But on the Lane Kiffin thing, I agree. I think Lane Kiffin would be a great hire. But there is some issue. It's reported that he has a large buyout in his contract, upwards of $35 million. And so then you'd be spending almost $90 million on just firing and buying out another coach. So financially speaking, I'm not sure. And like we said, we're not sure if Lane Kiffin's going to be available.
Yeah.
I do expect them to make that phone call, though. I do expect Lane Kiffin's name. I mean, it's already in the Florida search.
There's a lot of phone calls that I'm expecting to be made.
This is fun.
I think they'll call.
This is fun.
And I was thinking about this. I was texting our chat the other day. I was like, man, I think I texted it yesterday. I said, man, Jay and I really lived through the entire Brian Kelly era.
Yo, I'm gonna tell you a story. I was telling Poggi
No,
this.
man, don't make
after
me feel like this bad
after the
guy,
game.
man.
I'll never forget. Me and Poggi and I were freshmen, and we ran into each other at the dining hall, and we started talking about football. I'll never forget these words. He said, "I'm telling you now, before we graduate, we're gonna win a national championship here. I'm telling you now."
I lied.
And I believed that so much up until about 10 o'clock Saturday night, because I still even we were down 28-18. I was like, okay, how is it gonna happen? How is it gonna happen? It's gonna happen some way, right? Guys, I graduate in May of 2026, and unless every team in the top 25 loses these next 3 weeks, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Superman, make it happen.
I wish I could. It's just a costume.
I got a little victory lap, so I still got hope.
Yeah,
but I think that. Look, I lied to you, man. I'm sorry. They fooled me. I'll tell you. Look, I think that with all the jobs opening, and I kind of talked about this a couple weeks ago. If you are going to make a move and get and you are looking to get a new coach, you need to do it as quick as possible.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because the jobs like Florida, like Penn State, have already opened up. And so those type of caliber coaches that you're going to be able to look at and try and offer money at and try and get somebody to leave their program and come to you type of thing had to be done quicker than later. And I think that it was the right move. It was obviously, in my opinion, it was the right move. Right now, looking ahead,
letting go of BK?
Yeah, Coach Kelly, I think it was the right decision. I genuinely think you probably could have done it a week or two ago, just because getting that name out there, getting that, you know what I mean? Because I think if Lane Kiffin goes anywhere, he's going to go to Florida. I think he either goes to Florida or he stays in Oxford for another season.
I think it's more likely he stays in Ole Miss than goes to Florida.
I think both of those options are more likely than him coming to LSU. I just think that, and I mentioned how I think Florida's like 1A, 1B with LSU with jobs available. I mean, look, there's a lot of factors. You're in Florida. You have almost just like LSU. You have all the money in the world. You have an athletic department who is on just like LSU in the basketball world and baseball and all that stuff. Very successful.
Yeah.
And then you also have an athletic department that is all in right now, and that is like honestly in all the same page. And I don't think that Florida is that big of a mess that people think. I think Florida is honestly one.
I don't either, and I could definitely see Lane Kiffin and DJ Lagway dialing up some matches.
Like, that's
like,
what I'm
I feel like
saying.
if there's a coach that could like completely tap into the potential that DJ Lagway has, I think Lane Kiffin is.
And
that
I think
guy.
Florida is more of a Lane Kiffin environment than it is for Oxford. I think just like the swamp, that whole situation, the fan base, I think Lane Kiffin is a good fit there. And for LSU, who do I want? I want Dan Lanning. I want a psychopath. I want a psycho running this program. My favorite Dan Lanning moment is they're about to play Penn State. And he had this massive speech. You can look it up and watch it. Look up Dan Lanning, Penn State speech. And he's going at him. He's saying, there's 100,000 people out there and not a single one of them has to put a uniform on. We're going to go out there and blah, blah, blah. Like, he was very confident. My favorite part of the whole thing was they're sitting in the tunnel getting ready to go out and play, and they're doing the "We are Penn State. We are Penn State." And they go, "We are." And Dan Lanning goes, "About to get our butt kicked." That's what they should say.
Yeah.
And, he just has this confidence. He has this, psychopath mentality that we talk about having, a mentality that belongs in the SEC, a mentality that belongs at LSU.
Man.
He possesses all of it. Do I think it's possible and going to happen? Not while Phil Knight's at Oregon.
Yep.
But not, it's just not going to happen.
Well, keep going. Sorry.
But I think that the best person to coach this team right now in the college football world, in my opinion, is Dan Lanning. Who do I think you're more reasonable to get? What about Kelvin Shepherd, fellas?
Well, and I was going to bring that up. I think there are two guys. One's in the NFL and Kelvin Shepherd, a guy that understands the LSU program. We talk about a culture fit. Kelvin Shepherd played at LSU.
Yeah.
If you look at Kelvin Shepherd's Instagram profile, one of his pinned posts is LSU congratulating him on getting the defensive coordinator
He was
job.
with the team in 2022 in a operations role.
Exactly. I mean, Kelvin Shepherd was on this staff.
2020,
cares
not
about
2022.
this program, and you want to talk about a guy that's like a psychopath. I mean, you see the clips. He coaches hard.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's also working with Dan Campbell.
Exactly.
So it's
You gotta be a psychopath.
And another name similar to Dan Lanning, and I'm not saying that he's ready for a role or for a job
say
at
who
LSU.
I think you're gonna say.
You think I'm gonna say Kenny? I mean,
knew it. Why did I know it?
I'm just saying, like, Kenny Dillingham, I don't think he's going to be. He's not the favorite to get the job, and I don't think he should be the favorite to get the job.
Third in odds. He's third in odds.
But I don't think Kenny Dillingham is a bad hire for LSU either, because, like you said, he's similar to Lane Kiffin in that he's a great offensive mind, and he's also crazy.
Yeah.
In a good way. Like, when we say crazy, passionate.
Yeah.
Like, intense.
Man, I think to coach the LSU football team, you got to have some swagger, some coolness.
You got to go out and eat grass.
This is a cool city filled with cool people. This is a cool state filled with so much just culture and just swagger, like everywhere you look. Like, you have to fit somewhere into the mold. And it's gotta be in you. Like, you can't, our first sight of you can't be faking an accent like BK with my family. Like right there. I'm immediately. Immediately.
Hey Jay, what about?
Oh, in the
what
recruit
about
video,
that?
oh my god, like, dude, there were just.
I hope you got that. I can't wait to clip that.
There were so many moments where we should have known, like, yeah, this guy ain't it. Like, we don't do that here, man. Like, just be normal, and it's okay to be normal.
Look,
but
and here's the other thing. I don't know if y'all saw Kirby Smart's interview today in the press conference.
Yeah, go get Kirby Smart. Why not?
When he's the defensive coordinator here, they told him, he was in his office, and they told him, that ain't your office. You're just borrowing
You're renting it.
And he was like, at that point, I knew what this is about.
Yeah.
And if you don't win, you ain't going to be here long. And that's just how it is. That's what the culture's all about. And that was in 2004. So imagine what's going to happen 20-something years later. Yeah. And I think that we just talked about, you know who else you should call?
Joe Brady?
No.
Oh.
Ooh.
You need to call Miss Terry.
Oh, yes.
And you need to say, hey, Miss Terry. Hey, Miss Terry.
Put Nick on the phone.
We got gumbo.
What do I got to do to get old Nicky boy back out in the purple and gold? What do I got to pay you, Miss Terry? Because that's who you got to convince. Who you got to convince.
I mean, to that point, like, I don't know if you're, like, joking or not, but, like, if that happens, no one's going to complain.
No, you have, like,
at all.
No, if you don't think LSU's going to reach out to Nick Saban, you're crazy.
You're crazy. They are going to.
They're going to reach out to him. It is the longest shot, in my opinion. But
I also, like, don't get me wrong, hiring the greatest college football coach of all time is not a bad hire at all. But you got to keep in mind, that is a short term. It's like Gorilla Glue. It's like flex tape. You just put flex tape on your program, or, you know what I'm saying?
It's not a long-term
It's not a long-term thing. So
it's a 2 to 3 years type of thing. But I think with the roster that you have and the money that you have, and in this NIL era, you don't necessarily need a guy for 7 years.
You just need him for 2 or 3.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you just need enough time. Look, man, you're trying to tell me all these young kids right now don't want to play for Nick Saban?
You're crazy.
Like,
crazy.
Okay. But let's move on. We got more to talk about before this pod's all over. So with all the coaching jobs, we just talked about. So what do you think happens with recruits, right?
Ooh,
coming in, as well as some out-of-state talent that's already on this team, maybe switching to other programs. I think DJ Pickett's a guy that comes to mind. Lamar Brown, obviously, is a big one that comes to mind. For incoming guys, Like, what do y'all think's gonna happen? Do you think people leave? Like, what's gonna happen?
Well, I saw DJ Pickett's dad post something like, and it's still Go Tigers. Now, DJ Pickett's Jr. is not his dad, but I guess I kind of took that with a grain of salt. Like, all right, maybe that's one guy we can get to stay here. I do think this program will lose its fair share of recruits just because that's typically what happens, right? Nobody wants to walk into an environment of just dysfunction or an uncertainty of not knowing what the direction of this program is heading towards. So I think you'll have your recruits that you do lose, but I think for the most part, I think they'll still be able to snag some good recruits like they typically are because it's LSU. the name LSU is like they're gonna recruit the players themselves just by their brand and being LSU. So I don't think we have to worry too much about that. But with that being said, I would definitely prepare and brace myself to see some, people opting to transfer, to see some flips and people opting to reopen their commitments just because that's typically what happens in situations like this. You say you commit to a school on the basis of a coach telling you this, this is our plan for you. We want to integrate you into the system like this. And then that coach bounces. It's like, well, I don't want to go here where he's not going to be here. So it's one of those things. I think it's part of the process, but it's not our first time.
I think a lot of it also depends on, what position coaches are not retained too. I think if you keep Corey Raymond, there's no reason for DJ Pickett to leave.
Exactly.
I think if you, it's those relationships that were clearly Brian Kelly's not the reason DJ Pickett's at LSU. It's Corey Raymond. And
I would argue though that he played a big part in it.
I'm not trying to diminish that, but Corey Raymond is the leading force behind
DBU.
that.
I understand.
And it's worth noting, and we're not even 24 hours out from the announcement of Brian Kelly's firing, but what's kind of funny to me is LSU has gained more recruits as of this very moment than they've lost right now.
Wow.
That's obviously going to change, but they picked up a commitment earlier today. You had a guy, he's a top 10 receiver, I'm blanking on his name, top 10 receiver in the state of Louisiana. It was a 3-star. It's not like it's a 5-star. But he flipped his commitment from Louisiana Tech to LSU without a head coach.
I think this is going to be very intriguing of a turnaround just because I remember you asked, I think, the last episode, do you think Brian Kelly's lost the locker room? The reaction to his firing last night made it so clear. He had been lost it.
Kervin Johnson Jr., by the way.
Thank you.
And he lost it years ago. When I saw Malik Neighbors post the video on his Instagram story of the guy kicking rocks, the amount of former players that were tweeting out,
that was crazy.
That is crazy. So who knows? And I saw somebody said people love LSU. They don't like Brian Kelly. So who knows? Maybe that could work in your favor.
And then you also had guys who transferred out of the program. You had Bernard Causey tweet out today, so you're telling me I wasn't the problem all along?
Yeah.
Or you had Xavier Atkins or Debo Atkins tweet out and Trey Holly's karma's real, and all these guys that were committed to LSU. They're Louisiana guys, and they left your program.
Yeah, and there's a lot of pieces to this, man, and it's a crazy situation, and it's kind of messed up that we only get 50-something minutes to talk about it because honestly, we could sit here all day and talk about this. I think with players leaving, I think you're going to see a lot more out-of-state talent enter the transfer portal. I think in-state guys will stay. Guys that are from Louisiana that know that are here to be at LSU. But there were also a lot of guys that came here for Brian Kelly that Brian Kelly recruited and was able to grab in here. In my opinion, I think Brian Kelly's a really good recruiter. I think that has been one of his stronger aspects in his I genuinely think he did a great job of it at Notre Dame. With the pieces that he was able to have at Notre Dame, he didn't have a whole lot of opportunities, but he was still able to, always be in that conversation every year. And then you come here and you're, you lose the number one recruit in the nation, but you were able to get, the DJ Pickett's. Obviously, you mentioned Pickett came here for Raymond and more so Raymond than Kelly, but you have these guys that just. We are going to see guys leave. And then you saw the Lamar Brown tweet last night saying, thank you, Brian Kelly.
Well, he added context.
He did add context. He said, thank you, Brian Kelly, for being the first person to, believe in me. And then later today, he added context saying that was the first offer that he received. And then he was but that did put a lot of, LSU fans having their heart kind of drop a little bit. there's going to be moves. There's going to be moves that come and go, and that's every time with coaching carousels. When there's coaching movements and stuff like that, people are going to leave. But man, you just mentioned about Coach Brian Kelly losing the locker room. Excuse me. What is next for LSU in terms of moving forward and getting this locker room back to where it needs to be, regrouping this locker room, and what does the rest of the season look like for the Tigers?
You get a player's coach. I mean, Brian Kelly's a CEO.
But I'm talking right now.
That's
Frank Wilson.
Yeah,
right.
That's the solution.
But like, what needs to, like, obviously, yes, Frank Wilson, yes. But, like, what needs to happen right now? Moving forward with the rest of the season. Season's not over yet. You got 4 more games to play. So, what is, like...
I think you have to really make sure that however many players on the roster, but you have to make sure all of them see the point in continuing to suit up and go play hard every Saturday. There are guys... Mansour Delane that comes to mind, right? Harold Perkins Jr. that are going to enter this upcoming draft. You have to make sure that the guys like that still see the point in going out and playing on Saturday night. Like, they came here to, not only boost draft stock, but to compete for a national championship. And that is clearly out of the window. So you have to really make sure this team understands that there is still a job to do, and there is still something to play for at this point in the season. And I think if you can do that, then the rest should take care of itself.
And that's why I was pleased when they said they named Frank the interim instead of Corey Raymond or Blake Baker.
It was kind of, I figured Frank Wilson was going to be the interim.
I mean, he also has head coaching experience. But, like I said, or like you said, too, the in-state guys are not the guys that you're going to worry about in this remaining 4 weeks of the season. But I just don't see Mansour Delane quitting or Harold Perkins quitting, because these are guys that are still competitors, and the way you build this culture to ride out this storm, it's going to be apparent. And it helps them that they have a bye week this week before they play a big road game. I think back to when it was announced that, Ogeron was going to be let go and they had the bye week. They were coming off an emotional win against Florida. They had the bye week, and then they went to Bryant-Denny and they competed and they lost by 6 in a game that they probably should have won. Like, it feels like a very similar situation that they're in now. I think, like, it just seems like they have the guys, they have the position coaches that are there that are going to get the players to buy in.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you're comfortable. Like, you can be comfortable. And like we said, they're 9-3. The chances of winning a national championship are pretty much all but, barring some absolute miracle, it's done.
Yeah.
So go out and play without any pressure and just go and compete and play football.
Yeah.
Like, go and play the game that you've played your whole life and go prove the entire nation that what happened on Saturday was an anomaly. It was a one-off.
Yeah.
Like, it's not who we are. It's not who, like, Harold Perkins back-to-back weeks has not had good games. Harold Perkins has a chance in 2 weeks' time to go say, this is who I am from now on.
Yeah.
Like, Garrett Nussmeier has not had a good season. Garrett Nussmeier has a chance in 2 weeks to go and like, change how people will remember him at LSU. They have individual opportunities to create their legacy.
Yeah.
And be remembered in a completely different way than they are going to be right now.
Yeah.
And I think that means something to these guys. And I think Frank Wilson and Corey Raymond and Alex Ack, I think all these guys are going to spread that message. And I think they're going to get that.
They all want to finish the season strong. I think if they all want to go into Bryant-Denny and beat Alabama, obviously. I think it's just, the matter of, we've said this week in and week out, what LSU team are we going to see in 2 weeks? Are we going to see the one that walked into Clemson, South Carolina, and had all the confidence in the world, and even when the offense wasn't playing the best, they still had all the confidence in the world? There was no sign of, dropping of confidence. But then, or are you going to get the team that we saw this past weekend when, you're I was rotating from sideline to sideline, or from end zone to end zone throughout that game, and I'm walking by the LSU bench, and it's mostly when the defense was coming off the field or whatnot, and you're seeing the emotion, you're seeing the anger, you're seeing the frustration, you're seeing the helmets getting tossed, you're seeing the coaches yelling at players not really looking at the coaches, walking away. Like, you're seeing this stuff, and you're like, okay, this is an inside house issue more than just like a guys that we have on the field. Like, there's nobody. I don't think, and this is more than just Brian Kelly. I think this is more of just like a nobody in the room is on the same page, and I think they had a good start with the 1-0, with having that kind of mindset. But I don't know if these guys are all on that same page of, where they need to be, what the situation is, and maybe something like this will change that mindset. But I think right now, it hasn't.
I think it's just hard, man. Like, and that's why I kind of, like, in a way, wish they had waited till the end of the season, just because of how that could affect these players. Like, I've never been in that position, but I can't imagine how it feels for my coach to be here and then he's just not. Like,
right.
That's got to be a crazy thing to experience. But, like, these are some of the best athletes in the world at the end of the day, and I do believe that they will compete hard. But I don't know. We'll just have to see on November 8th.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two players the one guy that this whole weekend hit the hardest with is Nuss, because he had a very strong relationship with Joe Sloan. We saw he had a shaky relationship with Brian Kelly. But, like, we've seen mixed reactions from these guys. We have. Like, we've seen Whit Weeks post on Instagram, a picture of him and Brian Kelly hold, like, right there. Yeah. And like, okay. And then you've seen Zach Weeks, kind of show his love for the program, not just Brian Kelly. And so, like you said, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
I personally have full confidence that these guys are going to fight. There's not a doubt in my mind.
Well, and that's what Wes Weeks said in the presser. As long as I'm wearing those 3 letters on my chest, I'm going to be a fighting tiger.
Yeah. And you said Trez Green was visibly emotional.
Crying.
Yeah.
Crying.
Like,
so
I think they will. And plus, like, I'm glad you brought up the fact that they're about to play Bama. Like, how can you not get up to play for that game?
Like, they're ready, bro. They want to ruin somebody else's season. That's
what
you gotta,
absolutely.
That's what you gotta. That's what the mindset should be. Is look, okay, somebody walked into our stadium and ruined our season. Let's go do the same thing back, man. And that's how I feel. Well, look, we have hit our time limit over by a good amount, I kind of figured we would. Yeah. And that's going to do it for us here today in the John Frischer Podcast studio once again for a pretty fun episode, I may add, of the Hodges Huddle. I appreciate you guys joining me today. Thank you for all your insight. Clark Kent, Kirk Herbstreit.
I wish I had a golden retriever.
For joining me today, as well as thank you, Randall, for all your help back there, man. Appreciate you so much. So thank you all for tuning in for another episode. This has been the Hodges Huddle.